Good morning. Welcome to the second annual Martin Luther King Jr. Day program, sponsored by the Wakefield Human Rights Commission in partnership with the Wakefield Public Schools. I'm David Watts Jr., WHRC Chair. Before I start with the opening remarks, I just want to make mention of some of the dignitaries, for lack of a better term, in the hall today. We have our two state representatives, Donald Wong and Paul Brodeur. From the Board of Selectmen, we have Chairman Paul Donaco, Mayreen Butt, Tony Longo, and Edward Dombrowski. From the school committee, we have Greg Liakos. Also in the hall is our superintendent of schools, Kim Smith. And finally, from the Wakefield Police Department, Chief Richard Smith and Deputy Chief Craig Calabrese. Qui taxit consenteret, literally, silence implies consent. An ancient maxim originally from Roman law that still holds to this day. In a 1938 letter to Walter Francis White, then Executive Secretary of the National Association for the Advancement of Colored People, President Franklin Delano Roosevelt wrote, quote, "No democracy can long survive which does not accept as fundamental to its very existence the recognition of the rights of minorities." 2 years later, FDR expanded on these ideas in his greeting to the American Committee for Protection of the Foreign Born. Quote, "We must scrupulously guard the civil rights and civil liberties of all our citizens, whatever their background. We must remember that any oppression, any injustice, any hatred is a wedge designed to attack our civilization. We are living in a period when we are witnessing concerted efforts to roll back civil rights, civil liberties, and human rights. Of late, the not even tacit approval by some national leaders for hate groups, formerly relegated to the dark fringes of American society, has accorded them a legitimacy not seen since the days of Jim Crow. The expressions of hate and racism and intolerance are given support by those leaders who choose not to comment or to decry these expressions. Their silence betokens their approval of these attitudes and actions. After being the world's leader in the 12 years since the end of the Second World War and the founding of the United Nations, these leaders are moving to abdicate this position of leadership and return this nation to the discredited policies of the interwar years and the morally bankrupt positions of the America First movement. It is fair to say that throughout our 4-century history, America has had an uneven record when it comes to human rights. Each new ethnic group of immigrants, in turn, has faced discrimination. Heinous acts have been committed against the indigenous tribes from shortly after the arrival of European settlers until the 1920s. Japanese Americans were imprisoned in rude camps located in desolate areas during World War II. And very worst of all, there are what author Shelby Foote called the two great stains on the American soul that can never be eradicated: slavery and emancipation. And yet, the American ideal from the Declaration of Independence to our own times is equal rights for all. Until quite recently, the path has been one of expanding rights, of recognizing where we had previously been deficient. Despite the sense of encroaching darkness, there are yet signs of mitigating light. In the spirit of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.'s commitment to nonviolent resistance as a means to bring about positive changes and wider social justice, a growing number of people of all age groups and from all walks of life are coming together not to be complicit by their silence, but to speak out to promote, to support, to defend, to expand the full panoply of human rights. Grassroots movements especially are proof positive that those who are complicit at the top of government are woefully out of step with the beliefs and attitudes of a plurality of our fellow people when it comes to racial appearances, national origin, religion, immigration, sexual orientation, gender identification, women's issues, and any of the other myriad variations that comprise the human race. In truth, the one and only race. In many ways, despite several recent incidents, Wakefield as a community is supportive of human rights. In addition to the Wakefield Human Rights Commission, there are community-based groups such as the Wakefield Alliance Against Violence and Wake Up, and church-based groups like the Unitarian Universalist Social Action Committee. There is demonstrated support from the municipal level as well. Town Administrator Steve Mayo, the Board of Selectmen, the School Committee, Superintendent Kim Smith and the School Department, and the community-centric approach of Chief Richard Smith and the officers of the Wakefield Police Department. There is much that each of us can do to turn the trend around. Civil conversation and education are key. Instead of yelling past each other, how about finding some common ground, regardless of our differences in beliefs, and building from that point? Think about the recent story of Darrell Davis, a black blues musician who has made it his life's goal to bridge the chasm between himself and members of the Ku Klux Klan with amazing results just by being willing to approach and talk. Become more knowledgeable of history, how we got to where we are. Become more and better acquainted with civics. Stay informed every day on what is happening around you and be more involved as a result, particularly at the ballot box. Let me leave you with this challenge. Don't be silent. Join with us in our efforts. Bring your ideas and suggestions to a monthly WHRC meeting, or WAVE, or any other similar group in town. Volunteer to help out. Reach out to a neighbor you do not yet know well and build a bond. In short, get involved in some way each and every day to make positive change. Thank you.
It's easier to do nothing than it is to do something. It's easier to stay the same than it is to change. It's easier to fear and hate than it is to love and understand. It would have been easier for you all to stay home this morning, but thank you all for coming to honor the life and ongoing legacy of one of America's great heroes, Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King, Jr. Martin Luther King didn't take the easy path in his life. He struggled for justice and equality and sought to overturn the racist, intolerant social order of his day. Always committed to nonviolence, King used the power of free speech to promote ideas that resonate in the heart of every American. That we live in a country where all men are created equal, with liberty and justice for all, even though he knew it was an aspiration and not the current reality. King forced America to reckon with its lofty ideals in light of the racism that was so pervasive in our country in the 1950s and 60s. King's struggle continues to this day, as we're still trying to live up to the principles of our great democracy. While things may have improved since King's lifetime, his work is not yet done. We must still combat racism and hatred of the other. In his book, Strength to Love, first published in 1963, King wrote, "Returning hate for hate multiplies hate, adding deeper darkness to a night already devoid of stars. Darkness cannot drive out darkness. Only light can do that. Hate cannot drive out hate. Only love can do that. Hate multiplies hate. Violence multiplies violence. And toughness multiplies toughness in a descending spiral of destruction. May we be the light that drives out the darkness. May we employ the love that drives out hatred. May we learn the holy power of compassion that drives out intolerance. And in the words of the prophet Amos, may we let justice roll down like waters and righteousness like an ever-flowing stream.
is Pina Clementina Masciarelli. I am the Vice Chair of the Wakefield Human Rights Commission. In 1963, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. wrote that life's most persistent and urgent question is, what are you doing for others? Today, we are pleased to announce the second year of the Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Service Awards. These service awards recognize and affirm Wakefield's children, residents, business, or community groups that have made significant and tangible contributions in promoting civil and human rights of all people. These folks from Wakefield are not heroes, but people who took action. Thank you for the many nominations that were received by the Human Rights Commission. In his book, Strength to Love, which Rabbi Hirsch also mentioned, Dr. King stated, "In a sense, every day is Judgment Day, and we, through our deeds and words, our silence and speech, are constantly writing in the book of life." Let us look at our recipients. Our first award involves well-known activists in our town, presenter, Wakefield Board of Selectmen Chair Paul Donaco, to the nonprofit agency Wakefield Alliance Against Violence.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you for coming out to today's, to take part in the Martin Luther King Day celebration here in Wakefield. It is an honor and a privilege to be presenting this award to the Wakefield Community Group for their work in promoting civil and human rights. Wakefield Alliance Against Violence, or WAVE, is a community-based volunteer organization dedicated to creating a lifestyle free from violence in Wakefield by reaching out to the community, raising awareness, providing an educational resources, and support to families and individuals with an emphasis on prevention. WAVE encourages and supports education about problems of violence and works with interested community agencies and institutions in and around Wakefield to provide links to resources that offer direct service and interventions to both victims and the perpetrators of violent behavior. Each year, WAVE sponsors the presentation of The Yellow Dress to the junior class at the high school in an effort to start a dialogue and raise awareness around teen dating violence. The Yellow Dress is a dramatic one-woman play based on the stories of young women who were victims of dating violence. The careful, constructed program stimulates thought-provoking discussion about relationships, a topic important to every young person's life. It tells the story of a young woman's relationship that begins as young love, full of passion and promise, and ends in tragedy. In March, they will be hosting their third annual White Ribbon Campaign, where men and boys are encouraged to take the pledge in helping end gender-based violence. WAVE member and athletics and wellness director of the Wakefield Public Schools, Brendan Kent, applied for and received a grant regarding Game Change, the Patriots Anti-Violence Partnership. Game Change is an innovative approach to violence prevention education. The program is funded by the New England Patriots Charitable Foundation and the Massachusetts Attorney General's Office. It provides training in anti-violence strategies to students, faculty, coaches at 90 public high schools, and we are one of them. Wakefield High School also participated in Phase 2, which would provide more in-depth on-site training for 30 students who were trained as peer educators in anti-violence strategies. In July, WAVE sponsored a rape aggressive defense, RAD self-defense class to the females graduating from high school in June of 2017. The class was 12 hours long, held over 4 evenings. The final night is simulation night, where the young women put their newly acquired skills to use. For their commitment to promoting civil and human rights, I am pleased to present the 2008 Martin Luther King Service Award to a community organization, the Wakefield Alliance Against Violence, and ask Bob Eldridge to come up and receive the award on behalf of WAVE. I'm going to read this real quick just so that people can hear what the actual award is. For their efforts on behalf of their community, promoting the civil and human rights of all people, congratulations for being the Wakefield establishment which best exemplifies Dr. King's saying, everybody can be great because anybody can serve. You don't have to have a college degree to serve. You don't have to make your subject and verb agree to serve. You only need the heart full of grace, a soul generated by love. To you, sir, and your organization.
Is there anything that's on that, Galvin?
I try to exemplify what you do, sir. Thank you very much. Let me grab this. Thank you.
Thank you all very much. It's much appreciated. I'm accepting this today on behalf of Officer Amy Rando, who is actually the president of our organization. And she gave me a line that she couldn't be here because she had to appear in court. But I saw her in the library, in the lobby, and she was lying. She thought I should perhaps be more deserving because I've been with us since the get-go. Back in 2007, Chief Smith and I guess members of the group in Melrose called MAVE, Melrose Alliance Against Violence, approached us and said, look, we're trying to get something started here in Wakefield. Would you be interested in getting involved? Because I was already involved in the mentoring program. I ran WHAM for a number of years. And so, yeah, because it's right along the same guidelines. It's bullying, it's domestic violence, it's team dating violence. So with that theme in mind, that's kind of how we got started, and it's kind of grown from there. This was back in 2007. So in putting together a program of which many of us knew nothing other than just did a little research and found out what was out there and available, one of the first programs we presented to the entire town, but it was aimed mostly, it was presented in the high school and aimed mostly at kids in the high school. It was called Rachel's Challenge. And that goes back even before we had all these mass shootings in a lot of the other schools. But it was the first real mass shooting that most of us were aware of in current times in a school. It was out in Colorado, and Rachel was the first girl shot in the program, in the attack. And there was 2 kids that had been bullied all through school because they were accused of being homosexual. And in that respect, they just finally broke and attacked the high school with a number of guns, etc. So that was the beginning of the first thing we presented. Now, it's not happy news here. It's about violence. It's about teen dating violence. And Paul touched on the yellow dress, and I was kind of responsible for getting that involved in that I had heard about it through other people and said, you've got to get that in the program. If for nothing else, that's such a dramatic program. So I approached DET, which is Deanna's Educational Theater, which is right here in Wakefield, Mass. And she said, yes, we'd love to present it to the Wakefield Juniors because this is about a prom, and it's presented, if we can, right before the prom, the junior prom. So each year, Yellow Dress is presented to the junior class at Wakefield Memorial High School. And a little bit more of elaboration on that. The first year that we did it, Dr. Kim Smith was a principal at that time. And so when we presented, when the first kids came in there laughing and joking and kind of kidding around as kids do, and as soon as she started making her presentation, she comes out in a purple dress. And she talks about what's happened and how she has this date and this boy, she loves him, she's really, really attracted to him, he thinks he's a wonderful guy, and she said, one day he hit me. And then it's complete silence. And she elaborates from there. It goes on, it's a half-hour presentation. I won't give you the whole thing, and basically she comes back and she says, well, let me change my outfit, and she comes back on with this yellow dress. And the yellow dress is all blood in the front. She said, let me tell you what happened. And so now you realize that she's speaking out of the grave and giving the whole story about what has happened to her leading up to this event. It's a very dramatic presentation, and as soon as she gets through telling her story, she leaves the stage, and it's dead silence. I looked at Dr. Smith and I said, what do we do now? She said, I have no idea. I've never seen this before either. So it seemed like several minutes, but it was probably a minute. She came out, and everybody cheered and yelled, and for that dramatic pause, it made quite an impact on all the kids. Some of the other programs we've been involved in, we worked with, let's see, looking at my dates, we also did a thing called Dear Lisa. We didn't do it, but we sponsored it and brought it to the program, which also dealt with dating violence in the lower levels, where this fireman in Chicago, Tom Santoro, got a call one night after he had talked a long time with his daughter about this boy. She shouldn't be with him. He's dangerous. He's just psychotic. He's not a good person to have around. She said, I know, I've been going with him, but I realize he's got problems, but I've just got to go back and pick up my things that he has of mine. I'm going to give him some of the things I have of his. So about 10 o'clock that night, he gets a call, and the call is, you better come because your daughter has just been beaten to death with a baseball bat. So again, it's not really happy stories here, but it does make an impact, and that's what it takes to get through these kids, especially with teen dating violence, that it's real, it's important, and you must pay attention to who you're talking to, what you're talking about, and if you got a feeling that's a problem, there probably is, and deal with it. A couple of other things, and I will take the rest of the program, but it is something that we've been working on now, as I say, for 10 years, and we kind of do hide our light under the bush a little bit, but nevertheless, it's programs that are out there that we're working hard and try to make Wakefield a better place to live. Perhaps you've seen some of our stickers, Got Civility, where we try to turn the community into a more, perhaps, civil community. And I'm not saying that we aren't now, but we can always improve. Just one other thing that we did also present was a kind of a meet and greet program at the library. This was with, I forgot his name, Russell Banks, and he's a Wakefield High School graduate, class of 1958, as was I. And I knew Russell, and so we invited him back to come and talk about his book called, oh boy, I'm drawing. Damn, excuse me. Anyway, his book was called, I can't remember what it's called, but it dealt with the affliction. I'm sorry, thank you, there, prompter. And I have trouble with eye, so I can't really read what I've written. So anyway, that's why I'm kind of winging it here. But the book is about how in his family there was a lot of alcoholism, and it led to domestic violence and finally a really sad ending. And it happened right here in Wakefield. And so the book, as I say, was made into a movie, Affliction, and it was very popular. So we brought him in. He had kind of a meet and greet at the library. And again, it was something else we did just to kind of put the spotlight on these very, very, very terrible situations. So again, without boring you to tears, I just want to have those few remarks. And again, it's not happy news, but we are working very hard to try to make this a safer community. Thanks again for the award. We appreciate it on behalf of Bill Wade.
We were remiss earlier in not recognizing school committee members who are here today, Ann Fortier and Rob Tiro. So welcome. In 1964 at Oberlin College, Dr. King stated that the time is always right to do what is right. Our second presenter and recipient are frequently challenged in their roles to do what is right. Let me introduce Wakefield School Committee Chair Robert Tiro to Student Award recipient Rachel Semmel.
So I am pleased to present the MLK Service Award to a Wakefield student. Rachel Semmel is a senior at Wakefield Memorial High School who has a long history of promoting and supporting the human rights of children both in Wakefield and in surrounding communities, focusing extensively on youth with intellectual and developmental disabilities. Beginning in 2012, for 3 years, Rachel served as a volunteer swim instructor, providing one-on-one weekly support for young children with autism. Beginning in 2016, Rachel volunteered providing assistance to instructors in music therapy, creative movement, and young athlete classes for children with autism and other developmental disabilities. Rachel became involved with Wakefield Best Buddies in 2014, an organization dedicated to ending the social, physical, and economic isolation of children and adults with intellectual and developmental disabilities. And Rachel has a deep belief in the power of inclusion for supporting the lives and human rights of those with disabilities. Because of this and for many other reasons, she received the Unsung Hero Award from Best Buddies, Massachusetts, after having been nominated by the Wakefield chapter for her extraordinary commitment to both her buddy and to the organization as a whole. She was selected to serve as chapter secretary beginning in her sophomore year, and last year she was elected to serve as president. Rachel was invited to attend the Best Buddies National Leadership Conference in Indianapolis this past summer alongside other student leaders from across the country. In her many leadership roles, Rachel has expanded the scope of programming and instituted a number of new events to better support students and peers, including a holiday breakfast at Brothers Restaurant, a chapter Thanksgiving dinner, a Valentine's Day dance, and a Halloween scavenger hunt. In addition, she has worked to create partnerships with Best Buddy chapters from nearby towns by co-sponsoring events to expand the friendship and support circles of involved youth. She's also continued to lead the chapter's participation in long-standing events such as the Massachusetts Down Syndrome Congress Buddy Walk, the Linfield Best Buddies 5K, the Best Buddies Prom for Eastern Mass chapters, and the Wakefield Best Buddies End-of-Year Banquet. She is also responsible for leading and organizing all chapter fundraising events, for recruitment, and for interviewing. In addition, she is a member of Wakefield Memorial High School student leadership team, responsible for promoting the school's core values, including support for the provision of a respectful learning community and the acceptance of individual differences. She also serves as president of the Scholarship Foundation of Wakefield Student Directors, co-president of the Wakefield Memorial High School Recycling Club, and is a student director of the Hartshorn House Historical Home. She's a member of the National Honor Society and the Triumph Music Honor Society, and was awarded a John and Abigail Adams Scholarship. She plans to study psychology and special education in college next year and hopes to start a campus chapter of Best Buddies at the college that she attends. And I imagine sometimes she has free time as well. For her commitment to promoting civil and human rights, it is my privilege to present the 2018 MLK Service Award to Rachel Semmel, and I ask that she come up and receive her award. Read the note here. The Town of Wakefield Human Rights Commission recognizes Rachel Semmel with the Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Service Award for a student for her efforts on behalf of her community, promoting the civil and human rights of all people. Congratulations for being the Wakefield student who best exemplified Dr. King's adage, intelligence plus character. That is the goal of a true education. Congratulations, Rachel. Thanks again.
Thank you to the Wakefield Human Rights Commission for this great honor. Best Buddies is an international organization created in 1989 by Anthony Kennedy Shriver. Its focus is on helping young people with intellectual or developmental disabilities have broader social opportunities and to develop their full potential. In Best Buddies, people with and without disabilities are paired in one-on-one friendships, take part in larger group activities, and receive leadership opportunities. Its purpose is to promote inclusion, acceptance, and equality. Something I have learned is what amazing abilities all of the students I have gotten to know have had. My friend Veronica is probably the best bowler possibly in the world, definitely in Wakefield. My friend Dan Gill, definitely most outgoing person in the world. As you can see, the raised hand. Yeah, the legends, guys. And as you can see, they are here, which proves that they are the most supportive people ever. And each of them are incredibly friendly and supportive, even the ones that are not here. That's okay. I am incredibly proud to be a member of the Wakefield High School Best Buddies chapter because I really do believe that we are a small part of an organization that makes a huge difference in the world. Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. once said, "If I cannot do great things, I can do small things in a great way." Everybody involved in Best Buddies does small things every day when they text each other or they all sit together at lunch, but they do it in a great way that makes a difference in our school and our community. Thank you again for this honor.
In 1956, in Montgomery, Alabama, Dr. King said, "Whatever your life's work is, do it well." Our final award involves two people who do it very well. This award is being presented by a progressive leader and thinker in our community, Town Administrator Steve Mayo, to a progressive leader and thinker, Wakefield resident Service Award recipient Kevin Dua.
I am pleased to present the Martin Luther King Service Award to Wakefield resident Kevin Dua. Kevin grew up in Alexandria, Virginia, and his passion for education and teaching started when he recited Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.'s "I Have a Dream" speech in the 7th grade for an assembly. We're going to see more of that tonight, and we have that assembly here, so we're coming full circle, which is wonderful. Kevin would go on to graduate from the College of William and Mary and then serve a 2-year stint as an AmeriCorps member at City Year Boston, where he tutored students and provided classroom support at the Boston Renaissance Charter Public School. Kevin would go on to get his master's in education at Boston College and spend the next 5 years as a history teacher in the Somerville Public Schools, and currently he is a history teacher at Cambridge Rindge and Latin. Kevin has worked on and led numerous social justice projects that have been recognized locally, nationally, and globally, including his Understanding Kids workshop, a call to action designed to inspire effective relations centered on ethnicity, has been presented at universities and nonprofit companies throughout the East Coast. He has worked with youth on producing the investigative, award-winning documentary Reclaiming Black Faces for Frederick Douglass, Nat Turner, and Denmark Vesey, which centered on the enslavement of Africans in the U.S., along with the odd online discovery that many current media outlets misused Frederick Douglass's image with 2 other slaves, Denmark Vesey and Nat Turner. This film shows students contacting media outlets and professors to help correct their historical error and understand the importance of giving slaves human agency. Kevin has said, "In regards to American history, we have such a deep, complicated narrative that many are unaware, have forgotten, and or choose not to delve into. From Native Americans' agencies, colonialism, white supremacy, revolutions and democratic government, slavery, social identity rights movements, innovation to wars, we are such a young nation that has still much to grow and learn." Additionally, he has organized and broken 5 Guinness World Records with students, educators, and families, including largest group to dance to Michael Jackson's Thriller, largest group of arm-linked stand-up, largest group of people waving international flags, largest group of people wearing mismatched socks, largest group of people wearing eye black. And for his professional work, he has received extensive recognition, the 2017 Massachusetts History Teacher of the Year, and he was the first African American educator to win that state award. He was a 2017 National History of the Year Top 10 finalist. He received the 2017 Massachusetts Council for Social Studies Don Salvucci Award for Excellence in Promoting Civic Education. He received the 2017 Kathleen Roberts Creative Leadership Award at the Mass Teachers Association Human and Civil Rights Awards, and the 2017 Cambridge City Council Mayor Luminary Award. And I'm pleased to add an award in 2018. And so for his commitment to promoting civil and human rights, I am again pleased to present the 2018 Martin Luther King Day Service Award to Wakefield resident Kevin Dua and asked him to come and receive the award. Certificate of Award, the Town of Wakefield Human Rights Commission recognizes Kevin Dua with the Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Service Award for his efforts on behalf of the community, promoting the civil and human rights of all people. Congratulations for being the Wakefield citizen who best exemplified Dr. King's adage, "The ultimate measure of a man is not where he stands in moments of comfort and convenience, but where he stands at times of challenge and controversy." Again, congratulations from the town. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you to Wakefield Human Rights Commission School Committee Representative Richard and the Wakefield Human Rights Commission for organizing this beautiful event that's brought Wakefield residents from all backgrounds to celebrate and honor that black man from Atlanta who, when he lived, took the first step when he didn't even see the whole staircase towards human equality. And thank you to my amazing wife, Rebecca, whom I consider my Wonder Woman, for nominating me today. In third grade, when I first heard about Dr. King, I can remember asking my teacher if Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. was ever president. And though Dr. King was loved by many, though people loved his "I Have a Dream" speech, he felt that it wasn't necessary for him to become president in order to educate people of all backgrounds how to love and care for each other. And for me, over the years, I've done my part to realize that regardless of my profession, regardless of what I'm doing, I could do the same as well. And so in my classroom, outside of my classroom, I try my best to connect with young people, to connect with adults, to connect with anyone willing to promote, to advocate, to celebrate human equality. And so to receive this award, to receive an award named after my lifelong role model. And even though, yes, it was fun working with students to break a Guinness World Record, to receive this award named after the man that I looked up to my entire life is truly my greatest accomplishment as an educator. So thank you so much for everyone for being here. Thank you again to my wife, and for any young person here right now. Something that I tell my students over at Cambridge each and every single day is, just as Dr. King believed as well, believe, try, and do good. Thank you so much.
Well, it is time for us to be awed and inspired by the youth of our community. I'm very excited now to have Katie Pat from the Galvin Middle School come and present to us.
What does acceptance mean to me? Well, I know that there are many people that hear the term acceptance and think it means giving up. Simply throwing one's hand in the air and ignoring the struggles and challenges of the individual. My experiences tell a different story, though. When I think of the people that accept me the most, I knew they were also the ones who asked the most of me. What sets them apart is not in a difference in expectations, but in how they worked with me to achieve them. As an example, it is sometimes hard for people to feel accepted because of their looks and appearances or their race and religion. Hi, my name is Katie Pat. I'm an 8th grader at the Galvin Middle School. I'm on the student council and I'm a peer leader. Being a peer leader means that I help my fellow schoolmates in and out of our school, whether helping someone who has been bullied or just being there to talk to them whenever I can. I use acceptance in my everyday life. When we accept others for who they are, we can all make a difference in our community. Thank you.
And now, also from the Galvin Middle School, Claire Donahue. I Have a Dream.
Hi, I'm also part of the peer leader group in the Galvin Middle School. I'm in 8th grade. And recently we have gone through a training that basically trains us and helps us realize what is going on in our world and how we can help other students and people in general overcome obstacles. And I was inspired to write a poem called I Have a Dream. I have a dream. I have a dream that acceptance will become mental law, and instead of differences being frowned upon, they will be celebrated and encouraged. I have a dream that transphobia, homophobia, racism, and all of the other words with disgusting connotations will be mentally outlawed. I dream that xenophobia will be forgotten. I believe that one day people will realize that X for xenophobia and A for acceptance are on opposite sides of the alphabet for a reason, and that one day we can forget that part of the alphabet. I dream of a day and age where children can feel loved and secure going to school, where they don't have to pretend to be sick to feel safe. I dream of a day where every woman and man of every sexuality and color of the rainbow can go to their workplace and not worry about being harassed or even assaulted. I dream of a world of peace. I dream of a world of love. I have a dream. Thank you.
And now, also from the Galvin Middle School, Alexa Jones will sing Rise Up.
You're broken down and tired of living life on a merry-go-round, and you can't find a fighter, but I see it in you, so we gon' walk it out and move mountains. We gon' walk it out and move mountains. And I'll rise up, I'll rise like the day, I'll rise up, I'll rise not afraid, I'll rise up, and I'll do it 1,000 times again. And I'll rise up, high like the waves, I'll rise up, in spite of the ache, I'll rise up, and I'll do it 1,000 times again. For you, for you, for you, for you. When the silence isn't quiet and it feels like it's getting hard to breathe, and I know you feel like dying, but I promise we'll take the world to its feet and move mountains. Bring it to its feet and move mountains. And I'll rise up, I'll rise like the day, I'll rise up, I'll rise unafraid, I'll rise up, and I'll do it 1,000 times again. For you, for you, for you, for you. for that we have each other, and for that we have each other. Yeah. We will rise, we will rise, we will rise. Whoa, whoa. We'll rise. I'll rise up, rise like the day. I'll rise up in spite of the ache. I'll rise 1,000 times again. And we'll rise up, high like the wave. We'll rise up, in spite of the ache. We'll rise up, and we'll do it 1,000 times again. For you, for you, for you, for you.
Alexa, no fear. I just have to talk after you. Next, we have high school students Samantha Prosperi and Ricky McNamara performing You Raised Me Up.
When I am down and oh, my soul so weary, when troubles come and my heart burdened be, then I am still and wait here in the silence until you come and sit a while with me. You raise me up so I can stand on mountains. You raise me up to walk on stormy seas. I am strong when I am on your shoulders. You raise me up to more than I can be. You raise me up so I can stand on mountains. You raise me up to walk on stormy seas. I am strong when I am on your shoulders.
Next, Talat Aman, Wakefield High School junior and Human Rights Commission member, will be reading a poem, Where Did We Go Wrong?, written by Bob Vincent, who is a Human Rights Commission commissioner.
You and I share this great nation, honoring her history with patriotic pride, while voicing differing opinions, ones we refuse to set aside. We base each issue on our own set of facts, convinced we are righteous and just, our points of view moving us towards mutual distrust. Where did we go wrong and end up in this mess? The clock is spinning, and we are running out of time to veer our country from its rapid decline. We learned how to speak with a deafening roar, without bothering to lend one an ear. And yet we remain so surprised when our respect reaches a new nadir. This nation rests jointly in our humble hands, connecting her future and past. Let us strive a way to find a better way, to ensure her greatness will last. Where did we go wrong and end up in this mess? The clock is spinning, and we are running out of time to veer our majestic country from its rapid decline. So listen to me, and I to you, and let us seek common ground. We face a difficult peril if our own voice remains the only sound. I vow to respect you, my sister, to value what is important to you. I vow to listen to you, my brother. Let us start our discussions anew. Only then will our nation soar highly, fulfilling what our founding fathers had planned. Will you join me in taking this journey and restore dignity to our precious land?
Our last performance will be by Rocco Patel, Boston High School junior, with excerpts from I Have a Dream.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Rocco Patel, and I am currently a junior at Boston College High School in Dorchester, Massachusetts. This year, 2018, is the 55th anniversary of Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King's famous I Have a Dream speech. This speech was first delivered in front of the Lincoln Memorial on August 28, 1963, for the March on Washington for Jobs and Freedom. In commemoration of this historic and compelling speech, I will read passages that I believe have truly stood the test of time and are still very relevant to our society today. 50 years ago, a great American in whose symbolic shadow we stand today signed the Emancipation Proclamation. This momentous decree is a great beacon light of hope to millions of Negro slaves who had been seared in the flames of withering injustice. It came as a joyous daybreak to end their long night of their captivity. But 100 years later, the Negro still is not free. 100 years later, the life of the Negro is still badly crippled by the manacles of segregation and the chains of discrimination. 100 years later, the Negro lives on a lonely island of poverty in the midst of a vast ocean of material prosperity. 100 years later, the Negro is still languished in the corners of American society and finds himself in exile in his own land. So we've come here today to dramatize a shameful condition. Now is the time to make justice a reality for all of God's children. It would be fatal for the nation to overlook the urgency of the moment. This sweltering summer of the Negro's legitimate discontent will not pass until there is an invigorating autumn of freedom and equality. 1963 is not an end, but a beginning. Those who hope that the Negro needed to blow off steam and will now be content will have a rude awakening if the nation returns to business as usual. There will be neither rest nor tranquility in America until the Negro is granted his citizenship rights. The whirlwinds of revolt will continue to shake the foundations of our nation until the bright days of justice emerge. We must forever conduct our struggle on the high plane of dignity and discipline. We must not allow our creative protest to degenerate into physical violence. Again and again, we must rise to the majestic heights of meeting physical force with soul force. The marvelous new militancy which has engulfed the Negro community must not lead us to distrust all white people, for many of our white brothers, as evidenced by their presence here today, have come to realize that their destiny is tied up with our destiny. We can never be satisfied as long as our bodies, heavy with the fatigue of travel, cannot gain lodging in the motels of the highways and the hotels of the cities. We cannot be satisfied as long as the Negro's basic mobility is from a smaller ghetto to a larger one. We can never be satisfied as long as our children are stripped of their adulthood and robbed of their dignity by signs saying, "For whites only." I say to you today, my friends, even though we face the difficulties of today and tomorrow, I still have a dream. It is a dream deeply rooted in the American dream. I have a dream that one day this nation will rise up, live out the true meaning of its creed. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal. I have a dream that one day on the red hills of Georgia, sons of former slaves and the sons of former slave owners will be able to sit down together at the table of brotherhood. I have a dream that one day even the state of Mississippi, a state sweltering with the heat of injustice, sweltering with the heat of oppression, will be transformed into an oasis of freedom and justice. I have a dream that my 4 little children will one day live in a nation where they will not be judged by the color of their skin, but by the content of their character. I have a dream that one day in Alabama, with its vicious racists, with its governor having his lips dripping with the words of interposition and nullification, one day right there in Alabama, little black boys and black girls will be able to join hands with little white boys and white girls as sisters and brothers. This will be the day when all of God's children will be able to sing with new meaning, "My country 'tis of thee, sweet land of liberty, of thee I sing. Land where my fathers died, land of the pilgrim's pride, from every mountainside let freedom ring." And if America is to be a great nation, this must become true. So let freedom ring from the prodigious hilltops of New Hampshire. Let freedom ring from the mighty mountains of New York. Let freedom ring from the heightening Alleghenies of Pennsylvania. Let freedom ring from the snow-capped Rockies of Colorado. Let freedom ring from the curvaceous slopes of California. But not only that. Let freedom ring from Stone Mountain of Georgia. Let freedom ring from Lookout Mountain of Tennessee. Let freedom ring from every hill and molehill of Mississippi. From every mountainside, let freedom ring. Thank you.
Originally from Nigeria, Sekra Okunde grew up in Boston and went to Catholic school up until the 6th grade. Her mom enrolled her in the METCO program, and she continued school at the Galvin Middle School and Wakefield Memorial High School, where she graduated in 2016. She enjoys competing in pageants and has been competing since she was a young teenager. She's won city, state, and national titles, including Miss Black Teen U.S. Ambassador 2016. She's currently Miss Massachusetts Collegiate American 2018, and goes through the state promoting the national platform BRAVE, Building Respect and Values for Everyone, which is an anti-bullying campaign. She enjoys volunteering and supporting several nonprofit organizations, such as the Boys and Girls Club and National Brain Tumor Society. She's the creator of Angels Touch World, a nonprofit she started when she was 15 years old to help raise funds and awareness for orphans in Nigeria. She enjoys traveling and has been to all the continents except Antarctica. Her love for traveling has inspired her to one day be a Nurse Without Borders, an organization that brings medical aid to war-torn countries and developing regions affected by endemic diseases. She is currently a sophomore at Regis College and plans on becoming a pediatric nurse practitioner.
Good morning, everyone. Oh, I know it's early, but let's try that again. Good morning, everyone. Good morning. Much better. Okay. Well, thank you for that amazing introduction. Well, like he said, my name is Setra Okunde. I reside in Boston, Massachusetts, and I am your reigning Miss Massachusetts Collegiate America 2018. Thank you. Along with being Miss Massachusetts, I was a Wakefield graduate, as long as from the Galvin Middle School, although it looked a lot nicer here than when I came here. Well, a little bit about me. I just celebrated my 20th birthday a little less than 2 months ago. I'm a sophomore at Regis College, where I study nursing, and I plan on becoming a pediatric nurse practitioner. I actually start my spring semester tomorrow, so it's great to spend my last day of Christmas break with all of you guys. When I was 15, I started my own nonprofit charity called Angels Touch World, where I raise money and awareness for orphans in Nigeria. I love to sing, bake brownies, and of course, compete in pageants. I've been competing since 2011, so a little over 7 years now, and I love to compete and also volunteer throughout my state. Now, I know some of you read about me in the paper, but for those who are thinking like, who's this girl in this sash? I love to volunteer, and the national platform for the Miss Collegiate America system is called BRAVE, which stands for Building Respect and Values for Everyone. Now, I'll get a little bit into BRAVE at the end, but for now, I want to switch gears just a little bit. Now, I want everyone to close their eyes for just a quick second. And with your eyes closed, raise your hands if you've ever been bullied for something that was completely out of your control. This could be your hair color, your skin color, where your parents are from, things like that. Now open your eyes. Look around. What do you notice? Just take note of that. Just gonna do one more. Now close your eyes and raise your hands if you've ever wanted to feel accepted or liked by those around you. These could be your peers, your coworkers, teammates, anyone around you. With your hands still raised, open your eyes and look around. What do you notice? Well, what I noticed is that whenever I asked a question, there was never only one person that raised their hand. Hence, you're never alone. You're never the only person who doesn't want to be bullied, and you're never the only person who wants to feel accepted. Now, with those two things, they kind of go hand in hand. If everyone wants to be accepted and no one wants to be bullied, then why is the bullying happening? I kind of think it's because we never really take the chance to understand another person. A lot of times we're in communities and we're in environments where some people, everyone might look like us. And when we see someone who might have a different hair texture or who has a different skin color, we kind of get confused. And with that confusion and with that misinformation and misunderstanding about that person, then that can call judgment. And sometimes it's just easier to call something out when it's different from what you're used to. I also think taking the time to know someone and understand their background, their history, why they wear a certain thing, why they eat a certain food, why they look a certain way, it's really important to understand that person's background in order to remove and eradicate these type of bullying practices that occur every day. There are so many stereotypes and stigmas against certain groups of people, and that's really harmful to our society. Looking at each person for their own individual self is very beneficial, instead of grouping people into certain stereotypes that we may hear every single day. It's okay to ask questions. I can't explain that enough. It's okay to ask someone a question, respectfully, of course. Instead of asking someone, why does your hair look like that? You can ask, I notice your hair texture is different from mine. Can you let me know about your hair texture? Can you tell me how you styled your hair? Things like that. Those are more respectful ways in order to ask questions, in order to get information. Asking questions also helps to avoid ignorance amongst ourselves. Instead of believing that we know something or believing that we are understanding of someone else's background, it's important to ask questions. Okay, so Going back to a little bit more about BRAVE, like I stated before, it's an anti-bullying campaign for the national platform of the Miss Collegiate America system. It's a way of implementing ways of life into children. I think that that's the best way to go about the program, because when you implement these ways of life into young children, they'll never be able to depart from it when they grow older. If you teach a child to love their neighbor, to treat their neighbor with kindness, then as they grow older into their adult lives, they'll look at life in that way, and they'll be able to interact with other people that are different from them and be able to communicate and establish conversation, establish relationships amongst everyone. Which is why I want to spread the message of BRAVE across the city, across the state, across the country, and eventually across the world. Because by loving our neighbor and keeping each other in mind, it's a better way for us to go about our society and a better way for us to live our everyday lives. I'd love to speak to any of your classrooms, or if you know someone who would love to have me present into their classrooms, I'll be here after to take pictures and to talk to you all about that opportunity, or just to talk to you guys about anything, or ask questions if you have anything. So I'd love to hear from you. Now, before I go, I just want to give you guys one little phrase that I like to say to myself, or just like to share with others every time I do events such as these. So we're just going to repeat it, and yeah, it was just a little phrase to go by every single day. So it goes, I am different, you are different, and that's okay. One more time. I am different, you are different, and that's okay. Thank you.
Just have 2 songs before
Before my closing benediction, I would ask you to join everyone in the cafeteria for refreshments and a service activity with the Boys and Girls Club of Wakefield. As we go out from this celebration of Dr. King, let us take to heart what we have heard this morning and incorporate the legacy of Dr. King into our own lives. Dr. King's wife, the late Coretta Scott King, reminds us how important prayer was to her husband as he sought to do God's work in a struggling and tension-filled nation and world. Prayer, she said, was a wellspring of strength and inspiration during the civil rights movement. Throughout the movement, we prayed for greater human understanding. We prayed for the safety of our compatriots in the freedom struggle. We prayed for a victory in our nonviolent protests, for brotherhood and sisterhood among people of all races, for reconciliation and fulfillment of the beloved community. For my husband, prayer was a daily source of courage and strength that gave him the ability to carry on even in the darkest hours of our struggle. Let us pray as we are moved by our own traditions. As God so taught us, so now we are called to go now and overcome. Overcome racial hatred with love and understanding. Overcome sexism with mutual honor and respect. Overcome social inequalities with fair and equal opportunities for all. Overcome mean-heartedness with a kind word or a good deed. Overcome war, poverty, hunger, and suffering throughout our urban and suburban streets and lands abroad by sharing the love of God with our neighbor. Go now and overcome the darkness of this world with the light of God's love. In Jesus' name I pray, let all the people say, Amen.